Thank you, gentlemen. I yield to the gentleman from Ohio.
For unanimous consent, I ask unanimous consent to put into the record 2 sets of documents we received with subpoenas containing the emails and excerpts of documents I referred to today.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you.
I yield 2 minutes to the gentlewoman from Ohio, Congresswoman Kaptur.
I thank the Chairman, and I thank Chairman Bernanke for his endurance. We all have to do our jobs. I would like to insert into the record information and background on the relationship between Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and BlackRock. And
without objection, so ordered.
I thank the Chairman, and what I'd like to ask Chairman Bernanke to submit for the record from the Fed, how did Bank of America end up owning 49% of BlackRock? In 2004, the FBI warned the public and the administration mortgage fraud was headed toward an epidemic level in our country. The Fed did nothing. Now the Fed, under your watch, has hired BlackRock, a firm owned 49% by Bank of America, headed by a man who invented the subprime instrument when at first Boston and then later at BlackRock, who traded billions of dollars of these securities to Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae over the last decade. I quote a sentence and will place in the record from Bloomberg News. Fink's rocket-like rise when at first Boston was largely a result of his creative work with mortgage-backed securities, slicing and pooling mortgages and selling them as bonds, and he took his concept to Freddie Mac, where he sold the company's board on a billion-dollar package. That was just the beginning of it. Chairman Bernanke, what material can you provide this committee and to the record that will explain how the Fed will avoid conflicts of interest and self-dealing by that firm and its CEO in the execution of contracts you have signed with BlackRock?
We'll provide you with the contracts and with a letter explaining how it works.
I thank you. Some lawyers have said systemic fraud or control fraud have characterized the mortgage securitization process. Will you permit the FBI access to the mortgage instruments being managed by BlackRock as the Fed contracts are executed and fulfilled?
If there's a reason for the FBI to investigate, and the FBI has a right to investigate, we would not stand in the way of an appropriate investigation.
Thank you. How many contracts has the Fed signed with BlackRock to handle Freddie Mac paper and Fannie Mae mortgage securities under your purview, and how much will BlackRock be paid for those services?
We've hired 4 asset managers to manage our mortgage-backed securities portfolio. BlackRock is one of them. I don't know how much we're paying them.
Will BlackRock be handling Freddie Mac paper?
They'll be managing GSE guaranteed paper, so that would include Freddie, Fannie, and Ginnie.
I would seriously urge your staff to go back and look at the operations of BlackRock and Mr. Fink's operations at First Boston before he founded BlackRock in relation to what they transacted with Freddie Mac and when they did that.
Gentlewoman's time has expired.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Bernanke.
Thank you very much. Let me thank the Chairman for his time, of course, today. At the outset of this hearing, I said that it's time to shine some light on the events surrounding Bank of America's acquisition of Merrill Lynch. At this point, I would say we got a peak, not much, but we don't have full sunshine yet. I would make 3 observations before we close. Number 1, there are significant inconsistencies between what we have been told today, what we were told 2 weeks ago by Ken Lewis, and what the Fed's internal emails seem to say. It is still unclear whether Bank of America was forced by the federal government to go through with the Merrill deal, or whether Ken Lewis pulled off what may have been the greatest financial shakedown in a long, long time. As a result of this hearing, we have learned that the SEC and the FDIC played a role in this transaction as well. But as I indicated, we're going wherever the road leads us. So therefore, let me say that we're going to talk to the SEC and we're going to talk to the FDIC. We're going to talk to former Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson. He has agreed to appear before the committee in July, and I look forward to that hearing. But we also need to hear from the FDIC and the SEC so that we can better understand what happened during the dark days of last December. So we will be hearing from them as well.